Welcome to the Leadership Expose podcast. This podcast is for leaders at diverse levels and organizations around the world who are seeking to scale and transform their leadership, to level up their business, and to create an impact in the lives of people all around them. Business topics, trends, innovation, and the intersection with leadership is the focus. We enable success. I'm your host, Stephen Paul. In this episode, we meet an entrepreneur with a wealth of experience spanning multiple sectors, including startups and scale-ups for over 20 years, a dedicated, enthusiastic, results-oriented, and forward-thinking businesswoman with expertise in digital transformation, strategy, product management, architecture, and management as a whole. We welcome Amrit. She's a founder, and she's got multiple roles across being a digital officer, chief digital officer, product executive, business, and a mentor. Welcome, Amrit. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen. And thank you for having me here. I'm doing good, thank you.
Wonderful. Amrit, tell us where you're based.
So I'm actually based in London. I was born and raised in London. I also have a Portuguese citizenship as well. So managed to get that just before Brexit. So yeah, and also my work takes me globally. But yeah, my hub is London.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And do you, seeing that you are a Portuguese citizen and obviously an EU resident, do you travel to Portugal at all often?
I do to get away from London firstly. Sometimes you want better weather, don't you? So that takes me across over to Portugal, and it's not far either. So and my work, the way it's based, I can actually work from anywhere. So yeah, I have best of both worlds, I guess.
Yeah, I'm actually envious of you, Amrit, because I do have a few friends in Portugal, and they do say that they spend a lot of time, and they're able to work as well from they live in the Algarve, and they're able to work from there. And with now the last 2-3 years, we have been full on digital Zoom, and virtual working is a norm these days.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think the pandemic has kind of, pushed more people into that direction, if anything.
Yeah, wonderful. Amrit, tell us a little bit more about your journey until where you've reached now, personal, and insert a bit about your professional journey as well.
Sure. So, well, professionally, I guess I'll start with my degree. I graduated as an economist. Don't ask me why, because I think it was, I'm sure there's lots of people who face this same dilemma in terms of not knowing what to do. I actually, when I was really young, I wanted to go down the legal path and become a lawyer. But when I was very young, one of my teachers kind of said to my parents at a parents' evening, yeah, law, I'm not really sure, I don't think there's much money in it. It's a lot of hard work. She's very creative, maybe try and take her down a different path. And after that, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So that kind of stuck with me, and I actually didn't pursue the legal field. And as a result of that, I was going through the education system, actually not knowing what I wanted to do next. So after my GCSEs, I was like, right, what do I do for A-levels? And at that point, I think I just picked, I really wanted to do psychology, and I was really interested in sort of learning about the mind and social psychology, and then so I picked that as an A-level, and then I picked business because I've always thought about business, and also the versatility of studying something that can be used across many disciplines. And I also wanted to do economics, and I couldn't do business and economics together. It was a rule of the college I was at, so I had to choose one or the other. I chose business, and I also chose mathematics. So I finished my A-levels, and again I was like, now what do I do now? So because I didn't get to do economics at A-level, I just chose to do economics as a degree. So that's how my choice began with the education system. I graduated as an economist, and again I was like, now what? So I tried teaching. So I started teaching English and maths in a private school. I didn't like it. I knew there was something more to this. I tried accounting, and no offense to any accountants, I got very bored very quickly. I worked at local councils, doing various different roles, admin, I worked in education, but there was just something missing. And then I got a phone call about a IT job. And I thought, wow, IT, I've never thought about that. I mean, I know how to use a computer, so why don't I try? And I do help people in the offices wherever I've worked with like tech stuff. So I thought this can't be too bad, although it's a completely different thing to what I've graduated in. So I went along to this interview, and it was actually a course with a guaranteed job at the end. And me being me, I signed up for it. A week later, I thought, what have I done? This is like, IT is just too different. Like I should be sticking to something more around the world of economy. But it was too late for me to cancel and cost me a lot of money. So I actually had to, well, I sometimes call it a mistake, or you can call it by chance. I then did some exams. So I was getting the theory. I trained all the way up to CCNA. And then I thought, I've got the theory, but I don't have any practical experience. And this is a whole new field. Should I wait for the guaranteed job? Because that could take another, 6 to 8 months. Or should I start making my money back sooner and start finding my own work? At which point I interviewed with Western Union. And that ended up becoming, a really pivotal point in my career. I started off just logging calls, and that was my first IT job. And I absolutely loved it. And I thought, wow, I finally found something that I really enjoy doing. And I think it was because it was helping people. And to be able to see that you've been able to fix a problem for someone, I think became like the thing I loved doing. So I was at Western Union for 8 years. And through that journey, I ended up managing the entire tech team by the end of it. And then at which point I took a voluntary redundancy. And then I knew that I wanted to work in the field of IT, whether it be management or something more technical. But a lot of the roles that followed that were quite technical. So, I ended up working for a central government. I worked for the Cabinet Office, for the Ministry of Justice. I also worked for a logistics company. So every time I was going into the organizations, trying to fix a problem. So for example, they would have like a backlog of calls to get through, and they just didn't know where to start. Either the team wasn't performing well. So I found that I really loved doing that, is going into organizations and fixing problems. But that also meant that once I'd fixed the problem, I was like, now what? And that kind of pushed me into the next role. So that got me into the world of consulting and IT contracting. And I thought, well, that would be perfect, because I can go in, I can do the job, I can fix the problem, and then I can move on to the next. And it keeps my career very exciting that way. So I ended up working with Samsung on an IoT project for connected cars. I also founded my own Healthtech just during COVID. And also I'm working in the Fintech industry now as well. So I've had a lot of like different experiences professionally. And I think some of the things personally have shaped me into this journey as well. I remember my grandmother saying to me after I'd finished my GCSEs, you don't need to work, you don't need to study anymore. Just learn to cook, and we're going to marry you off. And I was like, no, I can't do this. Like, I need to do something else. Like, I'm too young. I don't know what I want to do yet. So I think that kind of pushed me down the education path, and, just keep studying until I'm ready to get married, I suppose. So, so I think, I mean, I've had a really exciting career so far. I can't complain at all.
Yeah, and we'll come into the areas of professional expertise and what you're doing now. But as you were describing all of this, I'm just hearing open-minded, progressive. You're determined, and you want to experiment, and you want to you want to understand where your passions lay, and you are gaining a lot more insight through different roles. And with all of those diverse experiences, Amrit, tell me, what was your, what are some of the learnings, or the wisdoms that you can actually reflect on over the years as you
Well,
move from one role to the other?
yeah, I think for me, I do like to take a little bit of risk. So I'm not afraid of sort of jumping into the deep end. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle, because they're too afraid to move from what they find is their comfort zone. And what I've found is that it really excites me to move into something new and exciting. And it's not necessarily that I've got all the experience or knowledge in the world, but I can learn it. And I think that's one thing that I found with a lot of teams that I've also managed as well. Some people in the teams have sort of complained about the role or complained about the job they're in, but then have done nothing to move from it.
Yeah.
And I always said to them, as a team leader, as a manager, don't sit there if you don't like it. You spend a lot of time, you spend a lot of hours in your day working. And if you don't enjoy it, what's the point? You'll take that same misery back home, and that might affect your home life, or vice versa. So you kind of want to make sure that whatever you're doing in terms of your career or your role, it's actually exciting you. Because a lot of people stay stuck in jobs and roles, even though they don't like them, and that also affects their productivity. So alongside sort of managing teams, I've tried to mentor them this way as well. And it's not easy to do. I know, like, some people will look at me and think, oh, you make it look so easy, but it's not. Sometimes I make the wrong decision. Sometimes I go into roles, or even some of the startups that I founded haven't actually been the right thing for me, or I think I know what I want to do, and I start putting a little bit of money into it, only to find that actually I don't want to do it anymore, or I'm not quite ready to do this yet because something else has come. So I've also chopped and changed a few times, and I try and mentor teams. And you have to take a little bit of risk. There's some people, for example, I moved from permanent employment into contracting. And the reason I did that was because I wanted that variety of work, and I wanted those challenges, and I wanted to keep things exciting. But other people find that move very difficult, because the security of a permanent job means more to them than doing something more risky or more exciting. But the trouble with that is, as we've seen in a lot of industries, redundancies happen, companies close down, teams are sort of downsized, there's no career progression in some circumstances as well. So I had always advised people to take a little bit of risk. At the end of the day, it's the majority of the hours in your day that you spend working, so why not enjoy it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and you hit upon quite a few points there, and it's that difference between that fixed mindset and growth mindset. And you also mentioned about contract work or interim work or consulting gigs versus permanent type of conditions. In my view, Amrit, I think it's safe to say that there isn't anything called permanent jobs anymore. You might have a contract that actually just says that it's permanent, but really, at any point the company might go through shifts and you might be out of a job.
Absolutely.
So it's in your interests as well to look at it more broadly and be entrepreneurial in any way possible, and look at opportunities to become value adding as well.
Yeah. And I think COVID has somewhat, shifted people's mindsets as well in this way. I've seen a lot more people sort of leave permanent jobs and actually start, go down the entrepreneurial journey,
Mm.
because they want to do something for themselves, and they've had that taste of, working from home, for example, or being able to do a side hustle. And with, costs of living going up every day, hearing something new, and bills are rising and all the rest. And I think there's that fear. So a lot of people are not only just doing permanent jobs, but they're also focusing on side hustles or small businesses on the side that can also supplement their incomes and help support them. And some of these people have, taken these side hustles into their main stream of income and work, and they've given up the 9-to-5 job per se, and which I think is really exciting. But I've also noticed there's a lot of coaches that have popped up. So
Yeah.
everywhere I'm seeing, since the pandemic, a lot of people have become a coach.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's true. It's true. Yeah, no, it's true. So let's talk about the professional aspects and the expertise. You mentioned about starting your own company, Healthtech. You're involved in Fintech. You're part of the startup hub.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about these ventures and where your specific focus and expertise is.
Yeah, so the Startups Hub actually came as a result of me helping friends and family, and also, friends of friends, with ideas that they had. So because I started to mentor friends and family, this sort of became slightly bigger. And I thought, actually, there's a lot of people out there who need some help and support. So for example, if we just take all the people from the pandemic that have come out and lost their jobs and then, have started the entrepreneurial journey, they don't necessarily have the support around them to help them navigate the business world. And that's where I thought, actually, I can help them, because not only can I help mentor them, but I also have a huge network of professionals that I personally work with who I think everyone could benefit from. So why not, help everyone out? So professionals as well as, early entrepreneurs. And that's sort of how the Startups Hub came out, because I have a mentor of my own. Not that I was looking for anybody, but just with time, this particular person became my mentor. And that's like completely changed my career path as well. The opportunities I've had as a result, the confidence I've built over time as well. If I just go back to when I first started my IT journey, in my first job, I remember people calling in looking for IT support. And because I would answer the phone, they'd think they'd reached the wrong department, because women in IT just weren't, it wasn't very popular at that time. And so I just think, my confidence has definitely built over time, where I thought, I couldn't speak up in meetings. I'm surrounded by some really technical people who have a lot of experience, and it's a male dominated environment still. But having the right mentor, I think, really helps to build that confidence, and you've got somebody to support you throughout your journey, and somebody you can bounce ideas off, ask questions to. And I think that's really important. So that's one of the other reasons why the Startups Hub was born as well. I'm actually doing this alongside my mentor. We've co-founded it because we believe we can help people avoid making those costly mistakes. Again, like I said, the professional network around it. So whether that's legal advice or tax advice, accounting, marketing, branding, tech, whatever, you name it, anything that, all the touch points you have as a business, as a startup, that's where we help you. But I've also started working with the Global Women Club. And I think there's a lot of women who are sort of experiencing the same thing I did when I first started my journey. So I'm trying to help them through this as well. So I'm actually going to launch my own networking event in July this year. Again, just helping people. And I think that's what I love doing. It's not about money for me. It's actually about being able to, help and support someone and seeing them succeed. And the Startups Hub really helps with that.
Yeah, and Amrit, so you take new businesses or existing businesses that are looking to get insights on their business, their new venture, through different areas. You mentioned quite a few domains there. So if I'm a business or an individual that's looking to leverage startup hubs or your expertise as a professional, how would a conversation between you and I sound like?
Well, firstly, we'd try and understand where you are in the journey. So if you are just starting out, there's a lot more involved in terms of understanding, what exactly is the problem and what's your solution around that. How is the future of, say, for example, tech going to affect that? Do you have a team? Do you have like co-founders, for example? Do you need more support from resources? Have you set up your company? Do you need legal advice? So we kind of understand where you are on your journey. If, for example, you are very early stage, we'll also go through like a business model canvas just to start to get you to think about areas that you might not have thought about. And then we hold your hand through that journey. So we'll have regular catch-ups with you. That could be on a weekly basis, that could be on a monthly basis. It all depends on your time frame and your availability. And then we'll go through each week and just make sure you're progressing. You've kind of got a roadmap in terms of, where you're heading. You put some time against that, so you know what you're working towards. And then as we go along the journey, where we need to do introductions with other people, that's where we'll get those people involved. And similarly, if you are already an existing startup and you're looking to scale up, we then help you, whether it's like investment you're after, or whether it's just some additional support or a mentor even. We kind of help you through that journey and help you avoid costly mistakes, because we've been there, done that, and it can really leave a dent. And also, a startup journey or any business journey is actually, it's not a straight line. There's a lot of changes that happen, and some you've preempted, and others that just come out of nowhere and blindside you. And that can really affect your mindset. It can affect the way you're feeling. But it's just making sure you've got that support there, that you've got somebody to ask, you've got somebody to help you, I'll call it a dark zone, to help you out of that dark zone, give you ideas and suggestions on how that you can move forward from things. So yeah, we help people all the way along that journey, just so that they have that, if I had somebody when I started some of my businesses that I could just pick up the phone to or drop a message to and say, look, I need some advice, if you've got 5-10 minutes for a catch up, I would totally have taken advantage of that. And that's what we're trying to do, is be the, that team that helps.
Yeah. And so in summary, basically you have a framework that you share, that you leverage with potential business leaders who are starting up, but you also help connect them. And you mentioned about investments and so forth. So these are pretty big items. And you're right. I mean, like, people who are actually starting out, or even in businesses, network is very important.
Yes, yeah.
Moving from one inflection point to another inflection point is challenging, because every growth inflection point within a business is it's got its own challenging attributes. So with somebody who has gone through this, like yourself, you would be able to share a lot of that experience, but also help connect with other people who might be able to give some specialized information. So that's wonderful. You mentioned about, Amrit, Global Women Club, and you mentioned you're launching that. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So the Global Women Club actually exists already. So what I'm doing is opening up a club in Windsor.
Okay.
So there's already a couple of clubs in the UK already. So there's one in Birmingham, in Richmond, in Notting Hill. And in July, I'm going to be launching the Windsor Club. So I came across this club just before COVID. And I really wanted to sort of kind of go to a networking event just to kind of see what happened. I wasn't, being an introvert, I always found it hard to like engage in like conversations or just go up to people and speak to them, or I used to see other people do it and I'm like, why can't I do that? And so I thought, okay, this might be a safer environment for me to try, because I've always been in a male dominated environment.
Yeah.
And so this was a club with women. And I thought, actually, this will be quite interesting, because there will be help and support that I need. And also if anybody else there needs the support, I'm there too. And I went along to one face-to-face meeting and I thought, oh, wow, this is really good, because the club actually helps everyone raise their game. It's not about competing, it's actually about helping and supporting everyone, which totally resonates with me. But then COVID happened and the face-to-face meetings stopped. So I was like, this has all changed. Am I going to go back? Are they ever going to have another event? Because they started to do virtual events. And although some virtual events can be really good, I just found that the face-to-face element was really important. And being able to speak to someone, see them in reality as opposed to on a screen somewhere, actually makes a huge difference. So as soon as these clubs started again, I started to go to more of these events, and I just found it really, really interesting. And I thought, well, why not do the same in a local surrounding area for me? Well, the idea was actually I wanted to open up a club in the Middle East. So I'm working quite a lot in the Middle East as well. And there, women empowerment is like sort of upcoming, and it's, their laws are changing. And I thought it would be a really ideal thing to have a network of this kind out there to help support women. And then I thought, well, before I launch there, let me launch locally, make sure, I fully understand the logistics and everything involved. And the idea is to eventually open up some clubs in the Middle East as well.
Yeah. Amrit, the topic of diversity, and one part of it is gender. Mm-hmm. And we talk about women here as well. It's such an important topic these days. So, I commend you for all the things that you're doing in terms of, building and enabling women from a business perspective, but I'm sure on a personal level as well through the club.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's talk about you as well now. So are you able to share any leadership lessons that you've learned along the way that's benefited others? I know you talked about how you've journeyed professionally, but any leadership lessons that you've learned that you can share with would be great to hear.
Sure. So I think along my journey in my career, whilst I've been managing teams, I've always seen one thing. When I go in to fix a problem for an organization, it's normally around the productivity of the team. So there might be like a huge backlog, and the team feel like it's a mountain to climb, and the environment is very stressful or very fast paced. And managers come in and it's like, very military style. We've got to do this. But what I found is that at the end of the day, we're all human. We all have our own struggles inside and outside of work. So I've always found it very useful to actually connect with the team that I'm managing. I will have one-to-ones. Well, firstly, I'll introduce myself with a one-to-one with every person, as well as a team meeting, and then also have these regular catch-ups with people, because things change and they have impacts. Something might change at home and it might have an impact on your work life. And it's just understanding that we are all human. We all go through, ups and downs in life. And that's what I try and make sure, that whatever team I'm leading, I understand, where they might be coming from. The danger with that is, I've noticed, like in some places where, you end up becoming more like friends than, separating that, the role in terms of the leadership. And that can sometimes get hard, especially when I've wanted to move in my career from one job to the next. And I feel sometimes people kind of lean on you, or they rely on you to help them, and all of a sudden you're telling them that you're resigning or you're moving on to something new, and that can become very difficult. So striking that right balance of making sure that your team know that you are approachable, they can come and speak to you about things and you will understand, and also understanding that everyone comes from different skill sets. Some people are more confident than others, and to expect everybody to perform exactly the same is probably not the right way to approach the situation. And I've always found, helping people, understanding where they're coming from, understanding a little bit about their personal dynamic as well as their work and their career goals, really helps to kind of give you a holistic view. And this is what has really helped me to be able to fix problems within organizations. It's actually getting to the root. It's the people, because once you've got the people on side, productivity will shoot through the roof. And I found that in every role that I've taken. I mean, it can be a very stressful environment, and that's what we have to understand. It is all down to the people.
And that's very important, and people talent, very, very important, and focusing on their strengths, because ultimately that's what really pushes them forward, right? When you actually recognize that. Tell me, do you follow any leaders or books that you've read that you want to share with the audience here?
Yeah, I mean, well, I have to admit that I'm not a big reader. So, as in, like, I won't. My first thing won't be to pick up a book and start reading. I've never really got into reading. However, when it comes to learning and when it comes to things I need to know about my jobs or the industry, I will read all sorts of blogs, articles, books. So for example, when I wanted to move more into the product space, I was reading a lot more books then. But one of the books that has kind of stuck with me is Simon Sinek's Start With Why. And I kind of wanted to try and understand what my purpose was, why I'm doing things the way I am, why do I keep chopping and changing? Is there something wrong with me, or is it actually a good thing, or is that what keeps me going? So I found that really important. But also I've started to listen to Stephen Bartlett. His Diary of a CEO. I'm really enjoying listening to that, because he interviews people from various different backgrounds, and you can just see that it doesn't matter how we perceive people, whether they're in the media or whether they're leaders in their industry or their companies, everyone goes through struggles. We only see the end point when the visibility is there and the media are talking about them, but the struggles that they actually go through, personal and professional, it just goes to show that we are all the same. There's no one person who's a magician who doesn't ever go through a struggle, and I find that really interesting.
Wonderful. So what does a day in the life of Amrit look like?
A day in the life of Amrit. Okay, so my work is probably the thing that takes up the majority of my day. And as a result of that, I don't have like a set pattern. I'm not the wake up at 5 a.m., meditate, go to the gym. I don't have a routine like that. Because sometimes my work keeps me up until like the early hours of the morning. So, if I'm sleeping at 2, 3 a.m., I'm not going to be getting up at 5. So my day can start at variable times, and a lot of that depends on the meetings I have as well. Some of them are early in the day, some of them are much later. And I guess because I'm working with the Middle East at the moment quite a lot, they're 2 hours ahead, so which means I have to start my day 2 hours earlier. But also means I can finish my day 2 hours earlier. So I will still get things in my day in terms of like, taking time out for myself, exercising, watching TV even, listening to a podcast. So my own self-development and most importantly, meeting my family. So I always make sure that no matter how busy I get, that I visit my family, once or twice a week at least. Because that's very important to me. And also it helps me support them as well.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't have like you know, a military structure to my day. I go with the flow, and I think that's the best way for me. It works for me. And you know, some people can wake up 5 a.m. in the morning, others can't, and I think it's okay. I think as long as you know what works for you, and you get the things you need to get done through the day, you know, go for it.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing. It's what works for you. And if that works for you and you've got your barometer to measure that through your outcomes, then very well. So what's the next big business adventure for you? I know you mentioned about your Global Women's Club, but anything else on the horizon?
Yeah, so I'm actually co-founding a fintech in the Middle East.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'll eventually be able to say I own my own bank, so that's very exciting.
Cool.
So yeah, that's really exciting. Also, I'm helping launch a martial arts app. So I do martial arts in my spare time as well. And it's sort of with the ancient Indian, you know, warrior history. And I think that's also one thing that's kept me sharp and on my toes all the time, because I'm constantly around weapons and blades and things. And, you know, at that point it's life and death. So you've got to really be on your game for that. And I think that really helps me. So the martial arts app should be launching in July. Fintech should be kicking off next month in June. And then I'm launching another business with my sister called Confidence 360. So we're going to be helping people with their inner confidence, the mental side of things, and the outer. So that could be appearance or styling. And yeah, hope you might see a Netflix series coming out in a few years. So,
Amazing.
yeah, I mean, keep it exciting, right?
That's amazing, and so I'll definitely want to bring you back on board here to talk about all of these items that you've just talked about here.
Oh, sure.
All right, wonderful. Okay, well, we're coming to a close very shortly, but are there any closing messages that you want to share with the audience here, or any challenge to other leaders that you want to share?
I guess keep going. The journey gets hard. You know, it's not all smooth sailing. It's not all, you know, happy. There are times where things get very difficult. You have to make very difficult decisions, but just keep moving. The idea is don't get stuck too long in that same mindset or that state. You know, move from there. That's really important. Keep some consistency. Make sure even if you're only doing a little bit a day, do that rather than nothing at all. That will help you sort of shift much quicker. I think the makeup of your team is really important, because in business, you know, you could be there for years and years, and you want to make sure that you've got the right support around you, the right skill sets around you, whether that's, you know, at C-level or below. You need the right team. And one of the things I found, one of the startups that I launched, one of the difficult things was the makeup of the co-founding team. And although I was a co-founder, I then had to I had to resign, because it was causing, even though the idea was absolutely brilliant, it was for a good cause, the makeup of the team was actually draining the environment. It became a very toxic environment. So choose your co-founders wisely, because they will be with you for a long time, and you know, you want to make sure that you can support one another. But yeah, I mean, do some research as well. I often find that people have an idea, and I've done this myself, and I've just thought, yes, it's a great idea, without doing the research. So although I think it's a fantastic idea, is it something that people want? Is it something that people need? Yeah, just make sure you do that research, and that could be from a user perspective, a market perspective, a competitor, or even culture, because I work in, you know, different countries, and the culture varies. So yeah, just make sure you've got that research as well.
Words of wisdom from Amrit. Thank you very much, Amrit, for being with us today and sharing your story, your journey, and all the exciting things that you're launching, have already launched. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been absolutely great.
Wonderful. Okay, folks, thank you very much for listening in, and stay tuned for our next episode on board effectiveness, whether it's a startup or whether it's an established business, and what that means for the board of directors, both at executive level and at the board level. Thank you very much and have a wonderful day.